Welcome back to the Multifamily Marketers Podcast. I'm Josh Grillo, co-founder here at Resident 360. I'm also joined by my co-host, Miss Caroline Mills. Caroline, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Glad to be back.
And we also have a very special guest this morning. We have Lizzie Munter. She leads all of our SEO here at Resident 360. She works on a lot of property websites and a lot of clients. She is absolutely fantastic. Quite the expert when it comes to search engine optimization. Lizzie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
We are talking about all things SEO. Last week, we did a little SEO 101 and talking about on-page SEO for property websites. That was episode 11. Take a listen to that one if you haven't already. This one, we're actually going to continue with that SEO mini-series, and we're going to be talking about GEO, or Generative Engine Optimization, and all things AI that comes out of that. So from your generative AI to your AI overviews. And I'm hoping that we can keep it kind of like a roundtable discussion, Caroline and Lizzie, so we don't get too technical, don't dive too much in the weeds, but actually just give some really good, valuable insight to everybody listening, and then some strategies that they can take away and hopefully implement on their own property websites. So with that said, let's just kind of kick it off. This whole thing of a GEO. Lizzie, you want to tackle that one? Like, what's like a good definition of GEO?
Absolutely. So yeah, GEO is definitely a word that we're hearing a lot lately. And just in short, it stands for Generative Engine Optimization. And basically that means it's just a different type of SEO strategy that's focused more on complex conversational searches rather than just keywords.
And how does that play into like AI overviews, or like, showing up and let's say like somebody's searching around with ChatGPT for stuff? Like how does that all work?
That's a great question, and one that I get asked a lot. So basically with GEO, the AI overviews are a summary of information that Google finds on various websites. And it's more conversational than it is just a specific detail about your property. So if the content on your website is optimized for those conversational type searches, like Q&A type searches, that's going to increase your chances of showing up in those AI overviews.
I like that example, and I think that's a good one. You can add in, Lizzie. Josh and I use a lot of AI and ChatGPT and things we talk about, but I think when I'm trying to talk to ChatGPT, I do talk to it like it's a person. So, is that what you think we should have in mind when trying to put content on our websites?
For sure. So, like searches before would say something, simple like, apartments in Chicago, Illinois. Mm-hmm. Well, now searches are a little bit more complex, and a renter will look for, show me apartments in Chicago, Illinois that are pet friendly and have pickleball courts.
Right.
And so it's just a little bit more, like you said, it's like more like talking to a person.
Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to like search, Google, we'll just use the big one, right? So AI overviews, it's really, they pretty much show up for every single thing nowadays. Anything you search for, it's always that very top part of Google, of those results. It's literally AI overviews. It's like, it just like answers whatever you're searching with the AI overviews. Mm-hmm. So let's wrap this up with a big bow. So GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, such a massive word. That's really manipulating a, let's say, property website to show up in search results for AI overviews or generative AI style platforms like Perplexity and ChatGPT. Guys, that's really what we're doing here. We are focusing on the property websites. We're doing the tips, the tricks, the little things that are going to allow that website to then show up in those AI results. That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to my next question. Why is it so important for multifamily companies now? Everybody's talking about AI. That's all we hear about specifically in marketing. So why should multifamily companies care? Caroline, you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, I think this is important. We've talked about AI a few other times, but it's not slowing down and it's not going to move backwards. So this is going to be something that continues to evolve in any space. If you are online in any kind of way, this is only going to continue to evolve and enhance and change. And so staying up to date on things like being on the podcast or listening and having different materials and education, it's important to adopt it when you can and make the changes that you can as it's moving versus waiting, 3-5 years. And now the industry or AI has completely changed. It is ever evolving and it's something that we, look at studying, but I think it's definitely useful to take advantage of it because your competitors are going to be taking advantage of it and you want to be able to stay in the game just like them.
All right, so I'm sitting here, and obviously I know all about SEO, but then I hear this GEO, and I'm like, what in the world? So what is the true difference? I mean, Lizzie, is there a true difference between GEO and SEO? We're just replacing the S with the G? I mean, what is it like? What's the difference?
That's a great question. So there's definitely a difference between the two strategies. So with SEO, you're optimizing content on your website based on specific keywords where there are keyword search volume opportunities and the keywords that you're already ranking for. And essentially, you're doing on-page updates that are very super specific. So you're looking at your page titles, your meta descriptions, your H1s, and your copy, and optimizing those for specific keywords. So it's a little more black and white. So if a prospect searches for apartments in Dallas, Texas, and you have your website optimized for apartments in Dallas, Texas, you are increasing your chances of showing up in the search results in the list for those keywords. On the GEO side, that gets into more conversational type searches. So, back to our example about show me pet-friendly apartments in Chicago that have pickleball courts. Google is going to scan the internet and look for websites that have those details summarized in a way that it can quickly scan and then generate back into an answer in those AI summaries that show up at the top of the search results. So not within the search results, but at the top of the search results. And then adding to that within the AI response platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity.
All right, so breaking it down even further, we're talking SEO, keywords, baby, keywords. We're optimizing these websites for specific keywords. GEO, what are we doing? We're taking it a step further. We're actually making it conversational. So we're trying to bring in, now correct me if I'm wrong, Lizzie or Caroline, but we're trying to bring in conversational language into that website. And I would assume that means having more question and answer style stuff on this particular property website. So that's a big difference. GEO, SEO, I mean, you want to be doing all of it for sure. So if you're focusing on your regular SEO and your keywords and your on-page SEO and all that, your next step is to start building in your GEO, which is your conversational language patterns in that. And with a property, there's probably a ton of things that you can put on there. And one thing that just hit me, and Caroline, Lizzie, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're on site, you probably get asked 10 to 20 of the same questions week in and week out. So it probably could be almost of creating your top 10 frequently asked questions, or your top 10 frequently asked questions, your top 10 should ask questions, and making sure you have all of those answered and then building those into your property website. Am I right by that, Lizzie?
Absolutely. So that's a really super easy way to signal to Google that you have the information that the prospect is looking for summarized in a way that they can easily pick up on. So, if you have some information on one page and you've got a list of, meta details on another page, Google's kind of got to scan several pages to pull together an answer for this prospect's question. Whereas if you have that information gathered in such a way, structured on the site that's collective, it's less work that Google has to do. They scan it and they can quickly summarize that into an answer. So it just increases the likelihood of your website showing up in those AI summaries.
So that's the very first big takeaway here, guys. Everybody listening, add a FAQ page to your property website and make sure you actually put some time and energy into this FAQ page. Don't just jot down 3 or 4 questions. Literally make it elaborate, 10, 15, 20 questions that you get asked, and make sure that they are thoroughly answered. This is going to give you an absolute hand up when it comes to trying to show up in stuff like Google's AI overviews and any type of, chat GPs or the perplexities of the Geminis of the world out there. So, all right, moving on. That was a good one. That was a great one. FAQ page for sure. Let's dive a little bit more into strategy if we can. So we got the FAQ page. What else can we do? So I'm a multifamily operator. I have a portfolio of websites. I'm going to go ahead and definitely add my FAQ pages for all my websites. But what else can I do? I'm doing my on-page SEO, my H1s, my titles, my meta description, right? But what else? What else is there?
I think taking everything that we talked about during our SEO one-on-one, I know we talked about a lot of different things and making sure you have all of those, but I think there's really easy ways besides the FAQ page to incorporate this kind of conversational tone. Don't feel like it always has to be, do you allow pets right before the pet policy? Like, I think there could be a very conversational and fun way of putting it, like looking to move in with your furry friend, ? We here at Main Street Apartments are a pet-friendly community, and then learn about your pet fees, all that kind of stuff. Now, I've asked a question relating to the pet fees. I now have the pet fees section that lists maybe my one-time pet fee, maybe my reoccurring pet rent or things like that, or maybe I have a breed restriction policy that I've included. And so while you could have had this on your FAQ page as well, now we've listed it in a very conversational, easy way as somebody's going to scan maybe an amenity page, somewhere where they're going to naturally end up anyways. I think you can do this in a lot of different pages of your website, not just FAQ. So my tip advice would be make it conversational, make it easy in other places on your website. I think neighborhood is a really great one to do. Possibly amenities, kind of going back to what you said, Lizzie, like love pickleball. Well, you'll love fitting in here. Something like that, where it doesn't have to be a traditional, and I put in quotes like FAQ, but it is a question asked somewhere that does end up getting answered.
What about because I do see this quite a bit on blog posts, TLDRs, too long, didn't read, the TLDR, which is basically a summary. I know that's a big thing with AI, but when it comes to property websites, what about, every page having a summary at the top? Is that too much? Is that too little? For example, let's take the floor plans page, right? And you have a TLDR at the top, which is basically a summary. Choose from 1 and 2 bedroom apartments with modern kitchens, in-unit laundry, and flexible leasing options, all designed for comfort and convenience. So that's my TLDR. Good idea? Bad idea? What do you guys think?
I'm definitely pro summary when it comes to pages, because that's exactly what Google is looking for. They want to have it's all right there for you, summarized in some of your most popular asked questions. So if it's pet friendly features, if it's pickleball features, if it's work from home amenities, having that summarized at the top of your amenities page, having the top of your floor plans page. If you have, we offer 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments with dens and optional work from home spaces. If that's what the prospect is looking for, having that quickly summarized at the top of the page can definitely be a big win for you in terms of helping Google crawl your site super easy. They find the content that they're looking for, and then they can get that back into an answer in the summary.
I like how you call out the part of maybe making it a little bit more descriptive, like where you were saying pet-friendly amenities, like kind of that kind of thing. The only thing I don't love is, I would say take your time to an extent on these pages. The only thing I don't love is when you go and it's the most basic thing that somebody is about to read one step down. Like if you said, look at a list of our amenities and features, we offer granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. And that's what it says. And then the very first 2 amenities are stainless steel appliances and granite countertops. I read that and I'm like, okay, I can read, And so I want it to.
You're saying you get offended by the
I do. I think
the TLDR summary.
I think I get offended because I'm like, I can read, but I want it to be useful. I think to your point, adding in the SEO of being able to use it to crawl and using that to your advantage, but give me a quick summary, especially if you are a community with a ton of amenities and it is something that you want to call out, maybe your top favorites or things that, draw your community, your prospects in the most, versus just literally listing the first 2 that somebody's about to read.
Yep. especially on the neighborhood page, if
Yeah.
one of the attractive features about your property is your location, that's a great opportunity to have a summary at the top to call out, local to specific major employers and identify some of your top employers in the area that draw prospects to your location or to your community. Or it could be just local area entertainment or just places that prospects would find really desirable. And just highlighting those at the top really specifically, could help you show up in those summaries. So for example, if someone searches for, apartments find me apartments in downtown Raleigh near this major employer, then and you've got that summarized at the top of your page, and you've got it right there for Google. They don't have to go pick apart your website to figure out, is this where you're located and are you near here or near there? You've got it right there, then it's going to increase your chances of showing up.
Good point. And then with all of this content, one thing I do know is that AI really loves structured data. So stuff like schema, making sure you're using apartment, local business, FAQ schema, if it's an FAQ list that you're doing, bullet points. Now, I don't want to get into too technical detail with schema, but bullet points are a big one. Clean subheadings with H2s, H3s. Obviously, we always talk about the H1 as well. So very structured data works very well for AI. Now, let's take this a step further, guys. Blogs. So you don't see blogs on a lot of property websites, and we all know why, because they are difficult to do. They take a lot of time, and usually the information that's on those blogs just isn't very valuable. So what should a multifamily company be using blogging as part of their property websites? And if so, what can they gain from that, right? How should they approach that? So let's first tackle it. I'm going to ask you, Caroline, first. Should they be using blogging as part of their strategy for GEO, SEO on their property websites?
I like blogging if you can keep up with it. Like you were just saying, I like the idea of having somewhere to get extra information, especially I think we've spoken a lot about, Josh, about people who search from out of town and never even get to come to your property and see it. So I think having the more information on your website that you can for a prospect to possibly really dig into and do their research and find out more about you is very helpful. My advice would be, yes, you just want it to be something that, one, is truly helpful to your prospects, and then two, that is sustainable and you can keep up with. Coming out with a new blog every single week, I think that's 52 blogs. That's probably not going to be super likely for a lot of people. And you want it to be, and if you have a large portfolio, you want it to be specific to that community. I think you could maybe get away every now and then with almost a general FAQ style blog about maybe something about your management company, about being pet friendly, things like that. But I think they truly do need to be centered around, for it to be the most value to you, to be property specific.
Makes sense. Yeah, I know a lot about blogging because obviously we've done it pretty extensively here at Resident 360. And the reality is this: you gotta build the habit of getting it done. Weekly for property is just going to be way too much, right? If it's monthly, sure, it could be monthly, right? Whatever that repetition is going to be, you're going to do a monthly blog. But the reality is making it valuable, right? If there's no value there, it's not going to get any traffic. It's going to be worthless to everybody, right? And if you're just putting words there to put words there, right, probably ain't going to make a lot of sense. So yes, I think from a GEO SEO perspective, building out these FAQ pages, even neighborhood pages on your website could make a lot more sense. But if you have the budget, you have the time, the energy, the team, creating actually well thought out blog posts such as best coffee shops near the property, like a really well thought out guide, schools and parks near the property. That's a great one. A full neighborhood guide, best restaurants to eat at around Christmas time by the property. So these are some things that could actually have real value, that could also potentially carry some social weight as well and get some social signals there, right? Specifically, if you talk seasonal, right? And you talk on topic, on trend for the moment that everybody's in. But that's a heavy lift, and we all know that, right? That's a lot of heavy lifting, and you pretty much have to have a pretty good writer on your team to do this. Sure, could you use ChatGPT or one of the other one of the other platforms to do this for you? Absolutely, you can. Is it going to be 100% accurate? Probably not, right? Is it going to read well? Maybe, maybe not, right? So you're going to have some human oversight there for sure. Can be done, but I think if you are going to, take the approach of, hey, we need to have blogs as part of our SEO program or GEO program, what we're doing here as a company, then I would say you really want to step away and think about it. Make sure you can actually get it done. Make sure you can build value with it, and that it makes sense. And if all those things line up, then 100% go for it. Because when you do, and you do a good job at it, it can create a lot of traffic. It creates you an opportunity to interlink those blog posts to different pages on your site. And that's another really, really, really big part of AI and structured data is interlinking. And I just posted this in my newsletter this week, the Multifamily Marketing Newsletter, just a little plug for everybody out there. It comes out every Thursday morning. I just talked about interlinking, right? The easiest way to build value from an SEO perspective is to interlink pages. So you're going to have pages that get a lot of traffic. Those are your authority pages. You basically want to put a link on that page, a hyperlink that links to another page that you want to build authority for. So again, this stuff all works in a circle. It really does, from on-page SEO to your GEO structure and how you're doing it, right? It's all things that we should all be doing, obviously, right? And it's all about creating valuable content at the end of the day, right? Great keywords, great conversational language, good content on these property websites. Authenticity makes a lot of sense. Caroline?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I liked your interlinking article, and that's a good point. Lizzie, you can talk to some of maybe the GEO or SEO of it, but I think having even that, like posing a question in your interlinking, like maybe it's on your floor plans page and the question reads, are you looking for upgraded appliances? And then somebody clicks that and it now leads them to the amenities. So I think there's really creative ways to do this and kind of link all of these different systems together and still setting yourself up the best for traditional SEO and then the ever evolving, changing GEO.
It's a great point about the blogs because, you can only fit so much content on each individual page. And content is definitely what helps you rank with SEO. And so, blogs are a great way to do that. Interlinking is a great way to build great, strong SEO. And then, Caroline, you brought in a third great point about bringing that Q&A conversational style structure into those blogs. Like all three of those are just top wins for good SEO and GEO.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So let's bring this home, if we would. So looking ahead, let's look ahead here a little bit. So if you own or manage a property website today, what's the very first step you should take with all of this? Lizzie, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, of course. The first step is do a search, a longer search that says, pet-friendly apartments in Kansas City, Missouri that have work-from-home spaces. And if those are amenities that you have, see if you show up anywhere in AI summaries or in AI assistance for that search. And then if you're not showing up, go back at look at your website and just see, okay, where can I add some more conversational language to bring in some of these top searches for my area?
Oh, that's a good one.
My number one would be an FAQ page. I think it's very fast, very easy. I think anybody on site, if you've been there a decent amount of time, you could instantly pop off the top 10 questions that you're asked all the time. And I think, like Josh said earlier, one, saves the team time. Now you have a place to reference all these questions and send prospects to. But I think it's a really easy way. It's usually very fast in most web platforms to create a quick page and copy your template and then just answer some quick Q&A. Like you said, keep it clean, simple, bullets, and have all those frequently asked questions in there. I think that's a really easy way to get started.
All right. And just thinking about the future here, let's future trend it, if we would, right? Let's walk it forward. Look, the AI stuff's not going away at all. And we all know, we've looked at all the numbers, we've seen the search volume, and, Google is still the predominant player, right? They own the search market. Your AI overviews on Google, obviously that's going to be there. That'll probably have a lot of different shapes here over the months and years to come. But I bet these generative AI platforms like your ChatGPTs, they will definitely be eating into that volume. We know that because I speak from example. I spend a lot of time in ChatGPT right now, and it's all encompassing, and it's only getting better. So people will probably spend a lot more time in it, and they'll slowly, gravitate to doing their searches in it as well for businesses and such. I think you have to do everything you can in your power to really set up your property websites to take advantage of it. And it's not hard is the thing. It's really not hard to do. It's just taking all that information that you have at your property already and putting it online, literally packaging it up, presenting it in a nice way, in a great format, and getting it on your property website, right? Having lots of content, as we've already said. So I think for the future of this stuff is, if you're a multifamily company listening to this, you better start now, like putting things in place for sure, because it's not going away. If you want to take advantage of search, this is your opportunity. So any parting thoughts there, talking about the future, Lizzie?
Definitely. So I know GEOs, it's a word that we're hearing a lot. There's a bit of unfamiliarity around it, just uncertainty of what does that mean? What does that look like for my property website? I think the main thing is if your competitors do have their websites optimized for GEO and you don't, it could mean missing out on leads. Even though it's unfamiliar, it's important to get familiar with it, jump on it, make sure your website's optimized for it.
All right, we will wrap it up there and appreciate everybody listening to the show today. Lizzie, as always, great to see you, and thanks for being on. We'll probably pull you back in on another episode down the line. Caroline, once again, we will reconvene next week on another episode where we're actually going to be diving even more in the SEO. It'll be our final episode of this mini SEO mini series. We're going to be talking about page links and offsite links, which are really important for helping your website rank. And so that's a wrap for this episode of the Multifamily Marketers Podcast. Appreciate everybody listening today. And if you like this episode, please share it with your team, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.